what you're about to do. Father, how you've anointed us from the crown of our head down to the sole of our feet. Create in us now a clean heart that we may receive your word. And as we receive this word, Father, we'll leave here willing to serve. Bless those who could not be with us on today. Bless those who are in trouble. But most of all, God, show us how to get ready for thy coming again. For the signs and wonders are all around us. That soon and very soon, we're going to see the King. Fix it now. As you cast away anything that would stand in the way of a blessing. Lower me down into your bosom. Oh God, that these your people will see nothing of thee, but all of you. It is not the attire we wear or how we look, how big, how large, how small, but it's what's on the inside. Oh, yes. The blessing shall come from on. Holy Spirit, fall fresh on us right now, in Jesus' name. Somebody shout amen. Amen. I bless you. You may be seated. God, we thank God for each of you on today, for our guests have come to share the Lord with us on today. Those that who come for a reunion each year, they come with smiling faces, the joy of the students who are in an area of schooling or just moved here looking for a place of worship. Let me first tell you that there is no perfect church. So make sure that you have the church in you while you're looking. Amen. The deacons read this awesome passage of scripture. And when I had some business cards, when I had some ministry cards made, this was a serious portion of my testimony. For God had done so many things for me, even through the valleys and shadows of death, the battlefield. There's nothing but not evil but danger all around us. I look up every now and then and say, Lord, how can I make this journey? And a sweet voice says, you can do all things through me. When I read this passage here, as Paul was saying, encouraging people here, I can submit to you today, regardless of what is going on around us in the world, that you have to keep pressing on in the miraculous and mighty name of Jesus. Can I get a witness? Yeah. Look at your neighbor real quick and say, he's about to preach now.
He's about to preach now.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Hold out.
Hold out.
And hold up.
And hold up.
Come on, give me my hand clap of praise. I liked it when Deacon Rankin got enthusiastic when he got to that 13th verse. The whole chapter in its entirety is really food for our souls. Something about between 10 and 13 that starts building. And we ought to know where we stand with Jesus. And Paul here was very, very reluctant toward them people not understanding that you ought to know where you're standing with Jesus. And not so much how, when, and where, but you ought to be satisfied for what he's done for you and what he's about to do. I want to use for a subject, and these words come to my mind as God has laid an anointing in and on my life, that in spite of the obvious things that would tear and pull us down, or pull us away from, or take us away from the very presence of God, we have to know within our hearts that in spite of all of this, God knows how to rekindle, refresh, and above all, keep us in his keeping power. Amen. How many know that without a question? Amen. In these verses, Paul uses the word content. And we see this in verse 11. This word speaks of being satisfied with one has, regardless of how small it might be. You ought to be satisfied. We ought to be content. A content person is a happy person. And a content person don't worry about what's going on, not only what others may do, say, or have. They're content because they have Jesus alone. I wonder this morning if there is anybody here who's satisfied with the lot of life that you have, or just where you are, or are you just complaining about any and everything every now and then? If you're satisfied, then you possess great treasures just in Jesus alone. So I want to just kindle your thought here for a few moments and look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I don't know about you, but I'm satisfied with Jesus. Look at him again and say, I'm satisfied with Jesus. You may stone me, turn your back on me, but I am satisfied with Jesus. Say it again from the tip of your voice, I am satisfied with Jesus. And when you shout Jesus, Jesus should roll off the tip of your tongue to the point where you know that he's immaculate. He's omnipresent, and he is the ultimate reason that you are sitting here on today. Say, neighbor, I'm all right now. Because I'm satisfied with Jesus. For a thought, and even in considering today, this very text reminds us that we live in a world of discontented people. You might be saved and have much in this world, and you might own a lot of things, and still sometimes you're not even content with that. A young Quaker early in the days of churches who promised to give a piece of his land to most of the people in the village that they were living in. He said, if thou be content, then why dost thou want my lot? In other words, he was leaving the world and couldn't take none of this with him. Let me tell you, whatever you have, whatever you own, is not going when you leave here. So we ought to be content with what we have. Not only that, be satisfied that Jesus alone made it possible. How many know that without Jesus we cannot make it? What I began to understand that rather than living lives of gratefulness and contentment, our lives are often filled with complaining. Somebody say, uh-oh. We whine, hide and recline. We frown. We complain when our children are noisy without thinking about those who can't even have children. Instead of being thankful that they're healthy, happy, and in the right mind, we're complaining one way or the other. We complain about our homes when thousands don't even have a home. Recently, we just learned of those there in West Virginia, not too far from here, who were flooded out. Even those who lost their lives. And I began to get a little concerned when a little bit of water come trickling up under the door. But at least I didn't get flooded out. And I'm grateful that we were able to salvage what was there. And out of all and the great things that man may build, still when God moves, he moves in a miraculous way. Do I have a witness out there? In spite of this, I am still satisfied with Jesus. Because it could have been the other way. Look at somebody real quick and say, neighbor, it could have been the other way. I find that we even fuss about our cars when they may have never even seen a car. In other words, there was a time I was walking and didn't have a car, but yet, if you don't put gas in the car, I don't expect it to run nowhere. Come on, help me somebody. Don't complain about the color because you're the one that picked it out and pulled it off the lot. I wish I had gotten this or that. But then you're going to realize that God gave you what you had. Paul here wanted the folk to know that you ought to be content in what you have. And we ought to be satisfied with Jesus. Stop the complaining about what you don't have and get on board and see what God has in store for you. Do I have a witness out there? That's a secret to the satisfaction. And Paul makes it clear here And he knew about this. Look at his words. He said, I have learned, here in verse 11. Somebody read that real quick. Verse 11. He said, I have learned. What did he say? I have learned to what? Huh? Go ahead. Keep reading. And to gain what?
Gain hope. I'm going to read the whole thing.
Yes.
Not that I speak in respect of what? For I have learned in whatsoever state of mind I am.
State down there what?
State of mind
Uh-huh.
I am. Therefore, be content. One more.
No, you're fine. Give my hand. I have learned to be content. Paul here. There'll be some knowledge. You ought to know what you know. This word means to understand, to make a discovery. I'm instructed. I know I'm content. This phrase means to be something that is initiated. Paul uses the language of Greek. And the Arab being translated over here, not above our heads, but folk have to understand that there's a special knowledge, a deep inward feeling when you are content. There's no secret about what God can do. And often we look at others and say, I wish I had this, I wish I had this. But what he's done for others, he'll do for you. The secret to this whole madness all around us, regardless of what is going on in the world, you don't have to be of the world, but be satisfied that Jesus knows how to make a way out of no way. Somebody in here ought to know that it wasn't you that got up this morning, but it was God that allowed you to turn over in your bed. It wasn't you that stepped out to see another day, but it's another day's journey, and I'm glad about it. And the reason I'm glad is because I'm satisfied with Jesus. I don't know about you, but Paul here shared, even in this society, God has a way of opening our eyes and showing us in the Word. There are secrets that will allow us to join by saying that I am satisfied with Jesus. Well, the passage of the chapter opens up about rejoicing. What is this rejoicing? What is so great about the substance of rejoicing? Well, I'm glad you asked. The secret of being satisfied with Jesus. Timothy, in the letter, 1 Timothy 6 and 7, said, be satisfied with what you have. See, God already knows your needs. He knew your need before you even asked him. Paul here in the ministry to the people had needs. He was very concerned during that time that people have a tendency to go wax. They get cold about worship. They get cold about doctrine. They begin to slack away. And believe it or not, we live in a day and time that all of us have material needs. Food, shelter, clothing, and all these things. And God already knows what we have, but somehow or another, our material needs overrides our spiritual needs. Somebody help me out there. Okay. And we forget about how important it is to study the Word in order to get through the lily and valleys of this world on this side of Jordan. There are many things that we are already destined to go through, but somehow or another, without Jesus, we have a tendency to stray away from the Word and cater more to the material things of life. Somebody say amen. Amen. And when we do this, we lose ground. We lose sometimes faith, and we lose the trustworthiness that God will make a way out of no way. That's right. Paul says here that I can do all things through Christ. Why? Because he leaned and depended on Jesus. Do I have somebody here that knows how to depend on Jesus? All right. God will supply our need when we don't even think about ourselves. You ought to be satisfied that he gave you not only what you have, but he's got more to give you if we would get back into the realm of studying his holy and immaculate word. Sometimes he will meet our need through others. Do I have a witness? We're all here, but trying to tell folk that God knows what you need. He's not slack concerning his promise to you and I. The blooming side of this, God showed Paul how you have got to lay something on the table of your heart in order to see what God has in store for you. Often in our phase of worship, in our brevity of trying to understand what God is trying to get us to do, we lose ground, all because we're not relying on the Spirit to guide us, rather than we're depending on our own natural being and self to do it every single time. But I'm telling you that if you allow God to do what he needs to do in your life, not only will you be satisfied, but you'll look back and see the ground that you've covered, and see how far that he's brought you from. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. God has brought you from a mighty long way. I'm not what I used to be. I'm not what I want to be. But I know that there is a God. And besides thee, there is none other. We need to know that we should have a knowledge to be content, even when we're in trouble. We may not like what you do, but whatever you're going through, God will bring you out of it. Do I have a witness? Even when we're in difficult situations, we ought to be content. Because Jesus will make a way out of nowhere. I like it when the psalmist said, the Lord will make a way. Somehow. Somewhere. The way is going to be made. There is nothing that God can't do. There's nothing too impossible. When it rang off of the very lips of what Paul had already gone through, telling folk about Jesus, and then folk rejecting, folk just totally going backwards, folk just slipping every which way but loose. Still, he was content that I've given you what God have told me to do. Now learn how to be not only content, but work out your soul salvation. If you want to work it out, you've got to get up off of your feet. Get out of the lack or laziness of serving God and get on board and allow God to use you. Paul says there was no self-satisfaction. We should never settle for less than the best. Do I have a witness? We can be ambitious about a lot of things and still be right with God. Should not we be satisfied just to be okie dokie, as most folks would say, or do the average, or just enough to get by? We ought to be giving God our best. We ought to move by nothing outside of ourselves, but everything that moves within us should be spiritually oriented toward pleasing God and not ourselves. We ought to be completely independent in all things and all people, to let others know that for God is my strength. God is my refuge. God is my all in all. God is my Alpha and Omega. God is my beginning and the end. God is my all in all. That's why at some point in your life, in spite of how the downtime comes, you look up every now and then and say, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. Self-sufficiency. It's not enough. Stuff you hear of motivational speakers and happy preachers and all that stuff. You can do anything you want. You allow God, just put your mind to it. People's got to get to the point where they move nothing outside of themselves, but move as the Spirit gives you utterance. Eliminate the emotion, because you don't get saved on emotion. You have to have the Spirit of the Lord moving solely on the inside. So in the self-satisfaction, which doesn't work, in the self-sufficiency, which is no good for you, you've got to find out that surrendering to the Word of God is the most important thing. Often we cannot get past our conviction. First of all, we've got to be convicted. Help me somebody. In order to be satisfied with Jesus. We got to be convicted to know who he is. And then once the conviction takes place, commitment invites you and everybody else into the arms of Jesus. He already knows what needs that you have. Upon that conviction comes a commitment. Folk are not committed to Jesus in this day and time, all because they're not convicted that he is who he says he is. Come on, look at somebody and say, maybe I can do all things. Because I'm satisfied. Because I'm satisfied with Jesus. We've got to realize that in all of this, we have to surrender. Now, let me elaborate just for a second here. Some folk try to surrender to Jesus in a selfish or within themselves. The cigarette smoker, the drinker, the alcohol, the drug user, they try to surrender to Jesus on their own will, but they don't have the strength or the power to do so. They can't leave the bottle alone because every time they get to shaking, they want to pick the bottle up to relax their nerves. Not only to find out that the bottle makes you that much more worse than what you started. So we just piling trouble on top of the trouble. Then the addict doesn't realize that once he took the first pill and got all woozy, that the time came around that when the excuse came and he got depressed, that he needed another pill in order to cover up the pill that he took just before that one. Then one pill piles on top of the other, and the other on top of the other, so it became self-sufficient, and still the problem is still there. I stopped by to tell you that when you try Jesus, that God knows how to make a way out of no way. When you try Jesus, you don't have to worry about a substitute. He's an on-time God. Somebody ought to know that when you try Jesus, he will make a way out of no way. Paul said, I can do all things. It doesn't matter what my trouble is. That God will make a way somehow.
Right now.
The grits of what we do to ourselves is on us. Because God already did all that he could do for us when he hung on Calvary's cross. Self-surrender is not going to do you no good. People are hurting sitting in the congregation because they're trying to get fixed on their own. They're trying to get better on their own. But I stopped by to tell you that the antidote for you to get to the point where Paul is talking about here is that you have to surrender. And when you surrender your heart, not your head. Can I get a witness? Amen. And when your mind comes to the fact where when you can think about Jesus night and day, then you'll see where strength will come from. You cannot keep going back to the same concept of the self-satisfaction, the self-sufficiency, and the self-surrender, because it does you no good. You'll fall every time. Here, the word makes it so clear. If you're going to be content, you got to not only, if you're going to lay the habit down, you got to give it to Jesus first. That's right. Come on, look at somebody and say, I'm satisfied now. I'm satisfied now because I gave it all to Jesus. The psalmist said, I turned it over to Jesus, and he worked it out. God has some things that he wants to work out in your life. But you got to stop bickering and whining and complaining about what isn't right and get right. Help me somebody. I'm not going to pull no punches. Get right. And do it now. Do I have a witness? Some people like trapped animals, watching them in a cave. And often we are in the same boat when we get into this bondage of sin. We trap ourselves in circumstances and habits and situations where we can't get out of the bondage that we're in because we don't allow the Word to do the work for us. We figure that we can get out on our own if we just come into the church doors or go to church and the problem will go away. But see, God knows what you need before you even had the problem. All he's doing is waiting on you to submit the problem to him. He already has the answer. All you have to do is ask him instead of waiting on the answer to fall out of the sky. Get on your knees and learn how to pray and ask for what you want. He said, ask and it will be given. Seek and you'll find it. Knock and the door will be open. God has a door that is already open for you and I. Oh, he said, let me in. Let me in. And enjoy the mercies and blessings of Almighty God. Well, from all of this, when you get self out of the way, maybe God can do something with you. Then you need strength. Look, my brothers and sisters, Paul doesn't say here that I can't. That's a language of defeat. Here, we find in this world a lot of folk that's on the battlefield or claim to be on the battlefield for the Lord. They're so quick to use the word decline. I can't do this. I can't do that. You know, in order for you to be an effective witness, in order for your strength, in order for your whole witness to grow, you got to start learning how to say, I can. And when you say, I can, it brings not only faith, but it brings power with it. When you say, I can, it brings anointing that breaks yokes that's in front of you. When you say, I can't, you're telling folk around you that I'm defeated because I just don't see where I'm going to get my next meal from, my next dollar from, my next blessing from. But when you keep saying, I can't, thinking I can't, you're giving up on God.
That's right.
You're not saying that you're satisfied. You said, I just don't believe that God can do this. But when you say, I can do all things through Christ, then God begins to turn your situation around. There ought to be somebody here that knows what I'm talking about. You haven't always been like you've been today. You haven't always looked up. There were times when you were down, but somebody saw. God looked beyond all of your thoughts, saw exactly what you needed. He said, I am that I am. And there's somebody here that knows that he is your Alpha and Omega, your beginning and the end. He's your strength. He's your bridge. He is your all in all. I can't. I wish you would come to me talking about it. Pastor, I can't do this. I'm going to turn you right back around and say you can. But you got to remember who you're working for. And see, when you say I can't, you're speaking from yourself. There is nothing too hard for God. Paul does not say I can because he just feel good about what he's saying. And you ought to understand, you've come too far to turn around. Look at your neighbor one time and say, he's almost through. He's almost through. But I can do all things.
I can do all things
because I'm satisfied.
Because I'm satisfied
with Jesus.
With Jesus.
All here in this message to the people. New converts often fall by the wayside. They join the body of Christ. They join the church and say, well, this is the place I need to be. But then a few Sundays later, they find out and say, well, where's the crowd that was here on last week? I don't see nobody. Then they get to the point where they're worried about who else is showing up besides me.
Keep it real.
And when you get to that point, you're not coming to serve God, you're serving the people.
Keep it real.
And I've got to tell you that to your face because I'm going to look you dead in the eye. You're not coming to the place of worship on Sunday morning to serve me. You're coming to serve the Lord.
Yes.
You're coming to bring a blessing. You're coming to be a blessing. And not only that, you come because it is not only this. Quit thinking about your duty. Because if you were getting into heaven because of your duty, then many of us would fall short.
That's right, man. That's right.
Because we don't do all that God has required us to
Come on,
do.
guys.
When Paul says, I can, see what I want you to understand is you have to get to the point where you need to deny yourself. Because see, you can't take up the cross unless you deny yourself. Look at somebody and say, you got to give it up.
Give it up.
Paul here was trying to say, said I can run my own life. I do not need God. This is what the people were saying about in and around. So, but I don't need to read the Bible. I don't need to go to church. I really don't need to go to Sunday school. I'm the captain of my own ship. I'm the captain of my own soul. I can minister to my own faith. I can look at First Baptist at 9 o'clock Sunday morning. I just really don't need to witness to nobody. I can do it. You can't do nothing without Jesus. The I has to get out the way. The we and the us has got to step in. It takes teamwork to build a community. You can't do it by yourself. You need God when you go outside that door. Because Satan will slap you down as soon as you step out on the street. Do I have a witness? He didn't say I can't, he said I can. But the key thing here is Christ must be the center of your life. You're not going to get no power on your own. Help me somebody. You're not going to get no power on your own. I don't care how saved you think you are. How blessed you think you might be. How much money you may have in your pocket. Everything you have belongs to God anyhow. But the power that you have, the power, you can only go no further than what you've been filled with. Come on, somebody. So if you're not prayed up, guess you're working on weak power. If you're not spiritually inclined, you're working on no power. Help me, somebody. If you're out there jaw-jacking or running your mouth out there in the street, Satan will trip you up on your own mouth. Come on, somebody. Next thing somebody's going to be asking, well, I thought you was a Christian.
That's right.
Well, I was until you made me so mad I got to this point. Then I began to cuss you out and bless you out and blaspheme, and God knows, I don't know what it was. A Christian don't do that. Because you're saved, folk are going to be looking at you. Folk are going to be watching what you do. Folk are going to be waiting for you to make the first mistake, to justify why they're doing what they're doing. I'm coming your way now. But when you're satisfied with Jesus, in spite of what others are doing around you, you're still going to hold on to God's unchanging hand. Somebody know what I'm talking about. When there is doubt all down in your soul, look up to the hills from which cometh your help. When it seems like trials on every hand, look up to God and be like the psalmist wrote and the young lady sung this morning. I can make it with Jesus alone. You're going to get tired. You're going to get discouraged. You're going to get frustrated. But out of all of this, roll right back to this passage. And not only Paul, the I becomes plural because you have Jesus. Help me, somebody. The I is not singular because you're not in self. The I is not really all just about you because you have surrendered yourself to Jesus. Often we cannot move further and closer and get intimate with God because we're trying to do it in a self-content. Deny yourself, and that's when you'll be able to take up the cross and be ready to follow Jesus. Somebody say amen. Amen. Paul says, I can do it through Christ. He knew he had power if Christ was in the midst. Well, what do you mean, Pastor? All things. All things is all things. I don't care how you want to put it. God is only give you what you need anyhow. So if he says no about this or that, then you just be content that he said no. Help me, somebody. I'm getting ready to take my seat here in a couple of minutes, but you got to get one point if you don't get nothing else out of this message on your own. If God had intended for you to do that, then guess what? Leave it alone. And at some point in your life, you got to realize when you're relying on him, when he answers your prayer, accept the answer. Accept what he allows.
That's right.
Whether it be yes or no. And then keep on moving. Folks have a tendency to get mad with God, get upset with God, or even try him in their own little weak way. But when your strength is coming from God, you're not going to keep biting the hand that feeds you. Somebody help me out there. You're going to hold on and fight. You may fall down every now and then, but get right back up and hold on to his unchanging hand. Don't falter or fail. Don't be weary in well doing, but know that God will make a way somehow. Circumstances may get big. Around the world, we're living and witnessing things that we just don't understand. In the last 5 days, I've worked 15 to almost 17 hours based on what is going around in the world. I said sometimes, Lord, I don't think I need this job no more. The Lord said, you better remember when you didn't have a job. Not alone. So the demand keeps on coming in spite of the circumstances that we may have. But I realize that my strength comes from God. My physical strength. When you laid down last night, you didn't have no power whether you would get up this morning. But because of the power of Jesus, that we made it and making it through another day. Paul here said, I can cope with the things of life. I can cope, and you can cope, and you got Jesus in the midst of every one of your storms. He gives you power to face anything that comes your way. You have to be content because your strength and your strength alone is going to come from God. Your refueling cannot be generated into power and strength for you to go through the circumstances of life without Jesus. And through that strength comes the Word of God. Every now and then you got to say, Lord, I am weak, but thou art strong. I confess that I can't do it by myself, but I can do all things through you. Strengthen me when I'm down. Pick me up, Lord, when I fall by the wayside. Give me strength to hold on to your unchanging hand. Guide my feet, order my steps. Make me just what you would have me to do. Step by step, I can make it home one of these old days. Satisfied with Jesus. Look at somebody real quick and say, neighbor, I don't mean no harm.
I don't mean no harm.
But you need to stop complaining.
But you need to stop complaining.
And say, I can.
Say, I can.
I can.
I can.
I can.
I can.
Because I'm satisfied with Jesus.
I'm satisfied with Jesus.
Finally,
Right now.
you understand? A poor farmer who's working hard all his life. It seems like he just had nothing. And when he died, his property was found sitting on the sea of oil. In other words, he worked all his life, and the oil was sitting up under the land that he owned. But he left here with nothing. But yet he went on to glory to find out that the greatest thing he could have ever had was to be in the arms of Jesus. He had a treasure on this side that he couldn't and didn't tap into, but when he found out that Jesus was the answer, not only to his life, but when we lay up treasures in heaven, when we know that we're saved, and we have to tap into the resource while we have a chance. My question, my interest is for you to understand, and even ask you in a way of a question. Are you tapping into the wealth of his power? Are you tapping into a resource of richness that's right here up under you? Are you tapping into the blessing that he's already supplied you with? Are you content just to be coming to church just to leave and don't do nothing for the Lord? Be content that you can do all things, even when you begin to knock on the door to witness to something, that God can speak through and for you. But at least go and knock on the door. Who have you invited into the place of worship lately? We still have people and the teams that are moving to evangelize. And I believe 2 young people are here on today because somebody witnessed to them. But for every time you witness, you go out and witness to somebody else, and it begins to multiply. Not so much by the numbers, but by evangelism. We have got to get the nation ready to meet God. God is not saying that the homosexual can't be saved. He's not saying that at all. But they have to turn from their old way in order to get into the kingdom. The hate crime that are going on around us is not because of people who they are. And we can blame the world for 30 million other things, but God is still saving souls. Amen. This is not the first trend of such action. It's just coming alive even more than now. And it's not all just about AIDS. It's about you and I. Because if you're satisfied with Jesus, you're going to get up and be about your Father's business. You handle your business. And I'm telling you this morning as I get ready to take my seat, and we play this song in the invitation, is that handle your business. And your business is getting ready to meet Jesus. Do I have a witness? Look at somebody real quick and say, neighbor.
Neighbor,
I'm satisfied.
I'm satisfied
With Jesus.
with Jesus.
Come on, give him a hand clap.
All right.
Stand to your feet. And the invitation to Christian discipleship. And that invitation is, if you out of the ark of safety, come unto the folds of Jesus. Surrender and give your life. You can't do this on your own. Stop trying to do stuff on your own. You're going to have to let God not only do the work, but He can